Well, the Panthers and their fans will take that win at Atlanta to close the season all day. But a 5-12 record means they could have had the 6th pick, but they dropped down to 8, still in the top 10. And we all know what the Panthers' needs are, but in case you need a reminder, it starts up front with an edge rusher or defensive tackle. There's an enticing wide receiver out there as well. So we're going to bring in from our friends at Locked On draft expert Damian Parson. Damian joining us from Greenville, South Carolina. Damian, thanks for being here, man. Panthers fans have convinced themselves that they're not getting Mason Graham or Abdul Carter, these top-end defensive front guys at the top of the draft at 8. Is there a chance they fall?
I mean, there's always a chance, right? You know, there's a thing called quarterback tax come draft season where you have teams in the top 5 above you that need quarterbacks. The New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders are 2 teams outside of the top 2 that haven't needed that quarterback. The Giants don't have an actual starting quarterback after letting Daniel Jones go, and they had the 3rd pick in the draft. You're hoping, if you're a Panther fan, you're hoping that one of these teams, whether it's New York or Las Vegas, they get greedy, they get hungry, and they go and get a quarterback and kind of reach for that 3rd best guy that we're expecting to go in day 2. Maybe top of the 2nd, a Jalen Milroe out of Alabama, a Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, maybe Drew Aller, who's at Penn State in the CFP, who plays tonight against Notre Dame. Maybe he finishes this run with a national title and says, I'm going to the NFL draft after saying he's going to come back to school. If any of those things happen, it can knock those guys down the board because you still have Travis Hunter, the do-it-all threat and offensive, defensive player from Colorado, and Will Johnson, the all-star corner from Michigan as well. There's a slight chance. Like off the movie Dumb and Dumber, you telling me there's a chance? It's a slight one.
All right, let's say it doesn't happen, though. What's the drop-off after a guy like Abdul Carter when it comes to pass rush when you're sitting there at 8? Is there a big drop-off to the next guy?
It's a solid drop off. This is still a really good edge group. I think for them, when you think about a guy that has not even seen his peak yet, and that is the 20-year-old edge rusher from Texas A&M, Nick Scourton, 6'4", 285 pounds. A guy that I think scouts and teams will be super intrigued by. He's athletic, quick first step and get off. He's got a ridiculous spin, kind of a la Dwight Freeney. You know what I mean? Thinking back to those old school Colt days with Peyton Manning, and similar body type and everything as well. And he's only 20 years old. He won't turn 21 until round preseason back in August. I think August 15th is his birthday. So for a guy like him, there's so much left for him to develop into. He has a plan to be able to convert speed to power, but also has that quickness and agility to be more than just a power rusher. So you think about guys like that. Jalen Walker out of Georgia, he's the kind of similar to Micah Parsons and Abdul Carter, that guy that can probably grade out as a first-round linebacker, but also plays the edge. He's 6'2", 245 pounds. I call him the Tasmanian Devil. When you watch him rush off the edge, this young man plays with speed, power, relentlessness. He is incensed to get to the quarterback. You turn on the first matchup with Georgia and Texas. He went up against one of the best tackles in college football, Kelvin Banks Jr., and he gave him everything he could handle. And again, this is a guy that plays off-ball backer. So you think about if Shaq Mason eventually, Shaq Thompson eventually leaves, or you want to go ahead and move forward and find somebody young there, you can add a guy that you can put a guy like Jalen Walker who can play both roles. You can play off-ball backer for you, but on third downs, he could be your priority pass rusher as well. And of course, Mykel Williams is kind of that kind of toolsy guy who just has not figured it all out yet. He played more D-line last year. This year he played more of the edge, 6'5", 265 pounds. He's probably going to check out with like 35, 36-inch arms, something insane like that. Explosive athlete, physical. He's just a big ball of clay. And I think with this defense, I think there was a report that Coach Dave Canales said that DC Evero is returning as the defensive coordinator. So that means his odd front, that 3-4 defense, is going to return as well. And you want to find somebody. Losing Brian Burns because of the contract issue was big for this team. Finding a go-to pass rusher is going to be big. One more guy to pay attention to, James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, 6'5", 245, and he comps to me to Brian Burns. Athletic, bendy. He showcased this year more of a pass rush repertoire and prowess and a plan to attack tackles. When he played against Georgia, he gave both their starting tackles, left and right, everything that they can handle. Outside rush, inside counters, speed to power, looping on twists and stunts. You can get creative on how you use him and how you move him around. This guy's, I think he's one of the nation leading in pressures this year. He's a really good player, and he can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, Pierce and Walker, by the way, are local kids. Walker from Salisbury and Pierce from right here in Charlotte went to Mallard Creek High School. We'll talk about how you may be able to go back and get one of those guys. But first, if the Panthers are sitting there at 8, they know defense is the biggest issue. It's the biggest need. But wide receiver Tet McMillan from Arizona, 6'5", he might very well be there. How enticing might that be?
Oh, it's going to be very enticing, right? You think about the Panthers, and I like Xavier Legette. That was one of my guys from the 2024 NFL Draft. Jalen Coker is, I think if Adam Thielen decides to leave, if you let Thielen walk and he goes somewhere else, whatever, I think Coker can step into that slot role and be that like timing on-time receiver for Bryce Young, where that's where he thrives. If you're not able to pay that, I would call it the luxury tag. Anytime you're not a team that's viewed highly in terms of like you don't have a lot of wins, things like that, free agents typically make you pay more. If you're not able to go get a T. Higgins, Tator McMillan is an absolute great consolation prize if you go ahead and select him with the 8th overall pick. 6'4", 210 plus pounds. This guy jumps 40 inches. He's a good route runner. He sinks it for a tall receiver. He sinks and drops his hips at the break point better than some of the smaller receivers in the class. He drives out of the breaks. He's got outstanding hands and the catch radius. You think about Bryce Young being able to throw that back shoulder fade down the sideline, right? Fourth quarter, you're going up against the Falcons to close the season, maybe for the division, and you need that big time catch down the field. Yeah, that back shoulder fade is going to be there for a guy like Tator McMillan because he plays with great body control. I believe he has a basketball background as well. Young man is kind of a do-it-all guy, and he can move down into the slot and be that big power slot for you at times to create mismatches. So if they decide to go Tator McMillan at 8, I would not be upset about that at all. If I'm a Panther fan, I feel very happy about that because he brings in, to me, unlike Xavier Legette, he will bring in an immediate wide receiver 1 presence where then Xavier and Jalen Coker could then be the supplemental and those like that wide receiver 2 and 3. And I think that's better suited for them right now in their young careers.
Young to McMillan, a back shoulder fade to beat the Falcons in Atlanta. You're painting a great picture for Panthers fans, Damian. If they move back, how far could they drop back and still get one of those other edge rushers you talked about, and what might be the compensation involved there too?
Well, I think if with you being at 8, you think about teams like the Dallas Cowboys that might want to come up and get aggressive for an offensive weapon. We know Jerry Jones can't control himself.
He traded for
as a GM.
Mingo.
Correct. So he might going to move up and get a guy like Ashton Genty, the star running back out of Boise State, after taking so much hit for not taking the running back in 2024. You can see him trying to overcompensate. So you think about moving down, still inside the top 15, whether it's with the San Francisco 49ers, a team that feels like, hey, we want to make sure our championship window isn't closed, and the only reason it was closed this year is because of injuries. They might want to move up and get a premier player, whether it's on the offensive line because they can improve the offensive line. You can move back a couple spots, probably, of course, add a second-round pick and try to get an extra first for next year and just set yourself up regardless, whether it is to continue to add and build around Bryce, which that's the hope, or if something went wrong in 2025 and Bryce is not the guy, you have so much ammunition, you can just build yourself for the future regardless. But I would definitely think about moving back if somebody's willing to come up because, again, teams, you think about San Fran, Dallas, you think about Miami. That's another team that could potentially move up and get aggressive, maybe for a wide receiver because of the whole Tyreek Hill situation that we've heard about since the end of the game. I think it was a week 18 on Sunday, and him not being happy there. So I think there's opportunity for them to move back, still get one of those edge rush guys, as well as cure more picks for next year.
All right, we, of course, love talking about day 1, round 1, but we know it's day 2 and day 3 that really build a team. The Panthers have a good complement of draft picks to work with, including 3 fifth-round picks. Where do the needs that they have match up with what's going to be available and what the strength of this class is in those next couple of days?
Man, I think when you look at this class overall, that there is wide receiver talent. It's nowhere near as top heavy as last year, right? There's no Marv and Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze, but there's still some guys day 2 and day 3. You think about Pat Bryant from Illinois, 6'3", 200 pounds. Reminds me a little bit of Rashad Bateman, who's over with the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of smooth operator at times, a guy that has outstanding ball skills. He's built up speed. He can play both inside and out. He's an outstanding blocker at the receiver position. And we know that in the NFL, if you don't block, they won't throw you the ball. Like, you got to be able to block for your running backs. I think he could be a guy, top of day 3, in that 4th round situation and everything. You look at, Maxwell Harrison, they need to improve the cornerback room as well. A guy over from Kentucky, 6'1", 185 pounds, one of the kind of more underrated cover corners in this class. You think about adding him to this room. There's a lot of potential there. I know safety is a talk for Panther fans and everything. Kevin Winston Jr., Penn State safety, 6'2", 210. Guy can cover. He can be kind of that strong safety, +1 in the run game, work downhill. The main thing for him, he was hurt all season, so I think that's going to hurt his draft stock and push him down the board just a little bit. And if that's the case, you kind of feel good about that if you're a team like the Panthers. Azariah Thomas, another corner, 6'2", 200 pounds. Going to see him live and in person down at the Senior Bowl in a couple weeks. This guy can cover, and so I'm happy he came out. I was a little surprised, didn't think he would, but I'm happy he actually declared for the draft because he is a really good cornerback, especially for a defense in Florida State that didn't play great ball this year. Interior offensive line, they want to find a guy that can play the guard or center. Look at Tate Ratledge, 6'6", 320 from Georgia, physical, powerful, wants to punch you in the mouth and move bodies off on the offensive line. And that was one of the best decisions Carolina made. Spending the money on those 2 guards gave Bryce Young all the confidence in the world in the pocket, knowing he doesn't have to face pressure immediately, and he can move around, he can navigate, and he can be a playmaker. I think there's multiple guys. This tight end class, I know they got Jatavian Sanders. This tight end class is good. Jake Brenningstool from Clemson, right here in my backyard, 6'5", 6'6", 240 pounds. Talked to an NFL scout, so he should be one of the top pass catching tight ends. That kind of flex tight end, doesn't block the greatest. He gives effort. Just kind of work on the functional strength and hand placement and everything, but moving him around, getting him as a big power slot against linebackers and safeties. Another big body guy that Bryce can absolutely kind of take advantage of. And another guy from Clemson, Barrett Carter, 6'1", 230 linebacker in this class. Uber athletic, can play man coverage, can play zone, will blitz you, can rush off the edge. Kind of a jack of all trades that they use in the multiple ways that I think can help Evero's defense in a big way as well.
Damian, for the first time in seemingly forever, I'm not really worried about the quarterbacks in this draft, but I want to know from you, as we get our popcorn ready to watch in April, what are the Titans, the Giants, the Raiders, what are they all going to do with this quarterback class?
Man, it's a 2-man race at the top right now, and that is Cam Ward out of Miami and Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Cam Ward has all the tools and talent that you want to be an elite caliber tight end. The drive throws between the numbers, he can make those routinely. Outstanding arm, but he gives you that just innate ability to play off script and out of structure, right? He has a good feel in the pocket. He can break, contain, keep his eyes down the field. And if you listen to him, he's a very self-aware young man. He is so zero recruit coming out of high school because he played in the wing tee. He played in the wing tee. Nobody wanted him because he didn't throw the ball enough. Went to Incarnate Word. He has a great story. I think this is going to be the guy that's going to be probably the first overall pick, just depending on the Tennessee and their preference. Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime's son, accurate. When he's on, he's pinpoint. Precision, accuracy. Main thing for him is just playing well in the pocket. He's been behind some rough offensive lines at Colorado. It's built some bad tendencies with dropping and drifting in the pocket. I think you get him into an NFL offense where he has a good offensive line. He can step, similar to Bryce, where they can just trust the O-line. They're not worried about it. They can drop back, survey the field, find the open guy, and dot every I, cross every T. I think with Cam Ward, similar to Shedeur, I think for him it's going to be coaching. He's so used to playing Superman. Sometimes Don't even step out. Don't even get into the phone booth. Clark Kent, put the glasses on, get your suit and tie, grab the briefcase, and just go to work. Hand the ball off, get the ball out quick to your weapons. In the NFL, we won't need you to carry us every single week like Miami did. And I think if a coach can get him to understand that early in his rookie season, he's going to be good for him.
All right. Damian Parson from the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us ahead of the draft, well ahead of the draft.
Absolutely.
I think we will be speaking again, sir.